Welcome to the budget meeting number 1. Actually, it's budget meeting number 2, but it's budget meeting number 1. Oh, hang on one second. Let's try again. I don't hear an echo. Welcome to budget meeting number 1 for the village budget for the 2026-27 budget. It's 6:01 or 2 p.m. and it's March 23rd. We are here in the Village Hall boardroom. Megan, would you take roll call, please?
Trustee Briggs?
Here.
Trustee Bonaski?
Good evening.
Trustee Wojka?
Hello.
Trustee Nazarian?
Here.
Mayor Domeretz?
Here. So on our agenda this evening it's really pretty open. We're going to cover 3 main areas of the budget having to do with police, fire, DPW, and capital plan. So I'm going to let Village Manager White kick this off, and I think it's going to be meant to be an interactive, not a presentation evening. And I'll turn it over to you, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor. So yeah, those are the kind of the ones. We have some department heads here to kind of, if you have any questions on some of those budgets that we're talking about. While we have PJ here, which is our chief of the fire department. Thank you for coming, and Jason, thank you as well. You know, what you're looking at the fire budget, it's fairly consistent what we normally do. If you wanted to look at the line item side of this, it's under tab Appendix 5, and it's page 20, starts on page 23 under that.
23 of 43?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm actually going to start at the capital plan that applies to the fire department.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Is that okay with you, PJ? And then we can move on to the regular one. So,
What page are you on, Mayor?
23 of 43.
Well, that's,
But
no,
we're gonna
that's
start-
the operating side, so.
That's the operating
Yeah,
side.
So go to capital.
I was just going to go through anything that was in the
Okay.
capital plan first, and then we can go back to the back end. So, okay, so we have a fire truck in there. Yes? Okay. We also have a Chevy pickup truck, Silverado. It says Fire Rolling Stock Reserve. It replaces truck 301. Okay.
Correct.
Tell you what, so that we get this on, you don't have to come stand up here, but just grab the handheld mic and, okay, you can do that. So there's,
Yeah, the first one, the Tahoe, is the replacement chief's vehicle.
okay,
And then I believe there's a second squad that would be just like a utility squad.
replaces 305, truck 305 model year 2021.
Yep, that'd be one of the pickup trucks.
Okay, and then there's the fire rolling stock reserve and bond. It replaces truck 325 model year 2008.
That would be the fire engine.
Yes, the fire engine.
Yep.
Sorry, Pierce engine.
Yep.
Okay. And then there's a roof replacement for station number 2.
Yes, both the roofs need work, but I think we just put the one line in there because of ongoing repairs between the roofs.
Okay.
Right, that's correct. That's the Worcester one. We're trying to make it work with the capital plan and the other needs that we have to be doing this year. So we'll do it this year, make sure we understand how we're gonna go about it, and we'll get the next one next year. Yep,
So
that is the plan.
that's station 2 this year, and then we'll add station 1 next year.
Yep.
Okay. And then there's a line for thermal imaging cameras.
Yes, that, we had in our normal operating budget lines, and it was just, it's a regular expense that's pretty pricey, so we moved it to capital, just because we're doing
Sure.
normal replacement cycles of them.
Okay. And it probably should be in capital. Knox box replacements.
Yeah, that's for inside of our vehicles, like a secure key that we have, so we can get into buildings in the village and town, for like fire alarms if no one's there.
Okay,
That's going to be like a one-time project, but it's just a bigger project. So
Okay.
we put that in capital.
ice rescue suits and SCBA RIP pack.
Yeah, so I think that one just got carried over the labeling from last year. It's just the SCBA RIC pack. And again, that's a one-time expense that we get and probably use for, 10-ish years for
Okay.
replacement, so.
And then on there is Station One restoration, 200,000 for the project to restore Station One after the mold remediation is complete.
Yep, that was working mostly with Jason and Brian
Yeah.
for what their side of that.
So that is a line item that's yet, the scope of work's yet to be determined. Coming up in the next, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have remediation company coming in there to remove a lot of the interior of the space that seems to need some work to remediate some of that issue. And then, once we open that up, we really get a chance to look at the building envelope and understand kind of what's going on. Where's the water infiltration coming from? Where's the moisture coming from? There's a lot of areas that we think it is, even water coming in from the outside. We kind of talked about this the other night.
Yeah.
These are not new issues. These are issues that were unfortunately created when the building was built and how it was done and so forth. So now we're seeing the impact,
Sure.
30, 40, 50 years later. So we'll be doing that and addressing some other things too. Like we were looking at some of the atrium near the kind of the hangout room and
Oh, yeah.
that stuff too. There's no flashing. I mean, that was incorrectly put in. So that's creating water issues there. So we're going to kind of look at the building envelope in its entirety and really address what needs to happen there to correct that. There's no sense in, as we discussed the other night, there's no sense in going in there and just kind of quickly putting in new studs and drywall and calling it a day. Let's really look at what needs to happen, make sure we're correcting it the correct way so we don't have to do this again and we do it right. And so we'll really identify that scope. So there's money in there now, not knowing what that scope will be in an effort, just whatever comes up, we should be able to address it.
Okay. I know earlier this year, there was, and I've asked Brian about it, I'm just confirming it, that there was a problem in Station Two with the generator, that some furry friends had gotten in and disabled it with their own special way.
Yeah, as far as I know, Andy May's been able to keep stuff updated with that, and there are not any big issues that I know of, unless Jason knows of anything else, but yeah.
It's all set.
Yeah, there hasn't been anything lately with it.
Squirrels and wiring happens in any vehicle, any generator, anything outside. That's a very common thing that happens. If you leave your car outside for 4 months, you can pretty rest assured that something has been chewed through in your vehicle while you were gone. It's just what happens.
I could ask this question here, but we probably want to go through the other side of the operating expenses. But at the end of the day, I'm going to say, is there something that got left out of here that we're unaware of or that does not have a plan to come up in the future? Let's go back to the operating expenses, and then I'm going to ask you that at the end, just to make sure that
Yeah,
we've heard all the good stuff. So we need to go to, what page was it? 40?
43 of 43.
23, okay.
23.
So it starts at,
Under Appendix 5.
yep, it starts at Fire Personnel Services, I think. Is that correct?
Correct.
Page 27.
Page 23 of 43, under Appendix 5.
I'm so far away.
It's okay.
And you guys are whispering. I'm like, what? Thank you for your patience.
No problem.
Okay, so we have 8 part-time employees, right?
we probably have more about 12 now, just with getting more people on board so we can fill open shifts.
Okay, but it covers essentially the 8
Yes,
individual shifts.
yes.
And are all of those fully covered at this point? Or are we still bringing people on board?
The shift should all be covered.
Yeah, we just brought one person on in the last couple of weeks to like fill the last few open holes, but we're getting to be in a better point for that, so.
Okay,
It's the same amount of hours, it's just more people covering those hours just due to people's availability and that type of thing.
sure.
Yeah.
And For those folks who are working there, what, do they cover daytime shifts? Do they cover shifts throughout the 24-hour period? And essentially, what are their responsibilities?
They're just their daytime between like 7 a.m. to 5:30, somewhere in between those. And they're just doing general fire station maintenance and cleaning, apparatus checks, and, you know, more so identifying if there's a major problem, we get it sent down to the mechanic. That's pretty much the gist of them. There's a general laborer is their title.
Okay. And so then from there, we go out, turnout gear, 8 to 10 sets. Now, I had been in a meeting with Megan and Brian. I think that was the chief before John Overacker, where there was a request for a large number of turnout uniforms, and what we asked to do was to stretch it so that we're filling it every year with a certain amount. Is that still what's going on?
Yeah, those big purchases that were from, what would it be, like probably 4-ish years ago now.
Yeah.
We finished, and now we're just kind of using this to maintain
Okay.
the cycle, so.
Okay, but we're keeping enough in stock so that we're not gonna have a big hole. We're just kind of adding a certain amount every year?
Yeah, as long as we don't go back to way years ago of buying none, then we will
Okay.
be good for.
Okay, just checking. And then that looks like it's all just, boots, gloves, hoods, helmets, the bailout gear moved to capital. Knox moved to capital, thermal imaging moved to capital, and we just went through that.
Yep.
Okay. I am not gonna go through this line by line, but, it goes all the way until we get to page 20. It goes into conferences on 27. And I think it ends at,
Ends on 26.
okay, midway through 26. So I'm just going to go down, and if you don't have any questions, that's okay. But was there anything that members of the board, I'll start with you, Sarah, if you had anything, or we can just go right down the line.
Only question I have is for toolkits and rope rescue equipment. There's nothing. Does that mean you just don't need anything right now?
Yeah, it was probably a line that we had in last year, and then we just kind of fill out the same sheets and move them around as we need, so didn't need something for it this year.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Heidi, did you have anything?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Adam?
No, I'm glad we've covered the plan for the 2 roofs, because I've been seeing, as I review stuff, little patches for number 2 and number 1 over time, and in the back of my mind, it's always been okay, at a certain point, it's just time, so I'm glad we're hitting it.
Yes.
And Tracy?
So if we add all this together, we'll come up with a total budget of 313,530.
I have 316,530 for mine between all the, is that, okay, yep. Yeah, that's between all of our separate accounts
Oh.
before it gets to the
Six.
training facility contract.
I guess my question is probably for Brian. If we cover Parenton, right, in our fire service district,
That's correct.
and Parenton pays us yearly for that. For this projected budget is $790,000 and change. But yet our budget that we're spending is 316. Where does the rest of that money go?
Well, we make contributions to the fire equipment reserve. We make contributions, additional contributions to debt service that's existing with the fire department and future debt service. We make contributions to workers' comp. We make Contributions, it's not in this budget.
Cancer insurance fund?
There's cancer insurance fund, there's FICA, personnel-related costs that are in here. That's not part of the operating budget that you're looking at there. There's contributions to the vehicle reserve. So all of that comes in to pay for the costs associated with it.
Because, so we do have funds like the rolling stock, the equipment, the fire capital fund, and debt. But it's not in this budget for us to see.
It's not in the operating budget as far as it's in this budget, it's just not in this 3420 account, but it's in the general fund showing where those monies are going in this budget.
Great, and
Yeah.
when we get to that page, you can point that out.
Okay, yeah.
Do you want to go to that page? So she
Sure,
can see it?
sure.
Okay, so go to page 42 of 43.
So this year, we're putting $190,000 into fire rolling stock, $130,000 into fire equipment. And then on the previous page, there are two debt payments, lines 2 and 3, for $80,000 and $40,000 that are fire related. And the majority of our workers' comp premium, the volunteer firefighter line item, is a huge portion of that.
I mean, our workers' comp premium's $165,000 a year. Our disability insurance that's required by law is $12,500 a year.
And then all the auto, I mean, we have to pay general liability insurance and auto coverage for all the trucks. That gets billed back too. We can't book it to 3410, just New York State has a uniform code and we're required to track that in different accounts. But the town gets an itemized listing of all this that they can tick and tie back to this budget.
Because I know that's a question, or that's an easy question. If we bring this in and this is there, where's the rest of it going? So that's.
Yep, it's right here.
And it's for the public to know that it's on page 41 and 42. It's also for me to understand, but for residents to understand where that huge hunk of money goes.
Anything else, Tracy?
Nope, I did have expenses like that in here for the vehicle maintenance, probably clerk time, snow plowing, we probably bill for lights and all of that. I just didn't know where that money was coming from, but it's coming out of one of these budgets that we pay back. That was my question. And insurance.
Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the question that I posed to you when we were talking through the capital plan.
Yep.
Was there anything significant that was missed from this budget? Because I know you met with Brian and you met with Megan and you talked through all these.
The biggest thing was getting the fire engine into this budget. Just
Okay.
'cause last budget cycle with the rolling stock, we weren't prepared to purchase it. So I think between meeting with them, talking about meeting with the town, we were getting prepared to do the fire engine purchase this cycle.
Okay,
And we are going to authorize the bond resolution, and we have the funding in here, so they can put the purchase in this year, but the delivery and the payment should be 2029
Yeah, it'll be 4-ish
in delivery,
years.
so,
Yeah,
but we had to have
you're
the
sending
funding
that
this
truck to
year.
high school
yeah,
It's just
so we can
important.
graduate?
yeah.
We wanted to explain that because it's important to know that in 6 months, you're not going to see a fire truck going into Station 1 or 2. There's a significant build time on this. We're going to get the body. You cannot authorize a purchase order unless there's funds committed via budget by New York State law in order to make a purchase like this. So we want to make sure that's all in place, ready to go. And in the interim, we'll be working on those conversations as I've talked to you guys about, all of us, and PJ knows what the town of Barrington authorized to make sure that, hey, they know what trucks are coming, what's down the pipe, what are the allocations associated with those by the local governments involved in this, and the long-term commitment to fund these projects and so forth. So we want to make sure in the future, are these bonded vehicles? Are we going to be paying cash for these? Are we going to increase the cash reserves from appropriations from Barrington in order to meet these necessary costs and liabilities associated with running a fire protection district, right? Which is solely or 3/4 of it is from the town of Barrington. So those are conversations we'll be having with them to figure out mutually how we want to go about doing this long-term, because right now, the allocations that we are getting for the necessary equipment to cover that fire district, they're not plentiful enough without taking out debt. And if these things are gonna be in a continuous 5-10 year rotation, plus just everything ages out, we'll be paying a lot of money in interest for known costs that we could be planning for now for the next 4 or 5 years. So I think there's an opportunity to kind of get ahead of that. You buy a $1.3 million truck, and you got a 4.5% interest load on it, you're gonna spend another $400,000 or $500,000 in interest on this thing or more. And that's something we gotta figure out mutually how we wanna go about doing that. It's a lot of money.
It is, a lot of interest.
Yeah.
So that's a conversation for the near future with
Yep.
the town of Barrington. Okay. Does anybody have any last things that they wanted to check in with PJ about?
I have questions about the fire station, but it's probably not anything PJ can answer.
Well, let's try.
Good. What do you got?
Well, Station 1 has traditionally been used for Canal Day staging for all of the SWAT teams and the police and the fire and the emergency service people that come in. And I'm guessing, can we get the station mold remediation completed and get that operational by June 1st?
Mold remediation will be done within the next 3 to 4 weeks or so. So the room could probably be usable by then, right? It just won't have drywall in certain places or what have you. There's gonna need the scope of work's gonna have to be defined. I do not anticipate at all the work being done by the end of May, with everything that has to happen.
But that space could be usable.
I would think so right now, barring what they find when they go in there and how far the removal has to be. I would think that the space probably could be utilized. It may not be the prettiest. I feel that way unless Jason feels a different way, but I don't know.
We anticipate remediation to take about 4 days, 5 days. We might have to do some additional cleanup through the DPW staff after the remediation team completes their work. But PJ and I talked about this a little bit last Friday.
Yep.
We do anticipate them being able to use that space in the interim. We'll make it safe, we'll make sure more safety features are there. And we anticipate them being able to utilize the space in some fashion while we're working on identifying the causes and planning for the reconstruction.
Yeah, we have a plan set. I understand that they're not gonna be walls for, a short period of time, so, but as long as the mold's gone, we'd be good to go back down there if we needed to go down there for something.
And it could be usable for your meetings and other things like that as well?
It could be, yes, yeah, as long as everything's cleaned up, then, yeah, we could use it without interior finishings.
Yeah, it's like we've all been there, you know. Just recap again, the 200,000 that's in this budget, is that for the remediation and the restoration of that space?
No, that is just for the reconstruction, once we identify that scope of work. We have another 600 and some odd thousand, 120? 75,000 for the remediation work that's gonna be happening within the month.
That would be in
That's
this
in
year.
this current budget,
budget,
right?
It's in
Because
this
this
current
fiscal
budget
year
that
that
we're
we're
in.
in goes to May 31, and that work's happening within the month.
Oh,
So
in
we,
our
so yeah,
current
so we
budget.
plan for that, yep, for year end.
Great. So this, the 200,000 is really just to rebuild that space?
That's correct.
That'll be a relief for you guys,
Yes, that'd be nice.
to be able to be back in your home space again. I guess I lost that part in here, if it was in this year's budget to remediate.
It's something that came up in the last month and a half, so it has to come out of this year's budget because of the fact that it's being done in this year.
First I'm hearing about it, that's all. you know, that's good that it's being done now out of this budget, you know, but I did not know that. That's hence asking the questions.
Okay. Anything else, Tracy?
Not right this sec. If it comes up, I'll ask it.
Okay. I think we're good, PJ.
Okay, do you need me to stay, or
I don't think so.
all set?
Thank
Thanks,
you so
buddy.
much for coming
Appreciate it.
tonight.
Yes, thank you for your questions.
See you tomorrow
Thank
morning.
you.
You coming in the morning? No? Okay. See you, bud. Be good.
Okay. Is anybody from the police coming? Are we good on that?
They were supposed to.
Okay.
But we can
Well,
go through it anyway. It's fine.
Um,
It's exactly the same budget as last year.
yeah. Did they have anything under capital planning?
They had vehicles, and then we got to replace some of the windows and kind of the frontage, the steel frontage part of the building. Just salt and deterioration have occurred, so,
Okay.
yeah, there's a police car in there every year that we replace.
Sorry. I lost my Post-it that was there. Okay, I found it. All right, so let's go back.
But the operating side is page 20.
All right. So before we go to the operating side, did anybody have any questions about the police department front doors, the Ford Utility Police Interceptor, those two items? That was it, right? Any questions about that? Okay, what you got, Tracy?
In our current budget, we have 20,000 for a redesign, the interior design, reconfigure that space, and then 300,000 to remodel that. Do we still think that's going to happen in our current budget by June?
No, it's not happening in this current budget, and it's not in the listed plan for fiscal year 26, 27. We're gonna wait, see what the new chief wants to do, what's going on, evaluate what's happening and how this wants to be really situated and what we really need.
So that 320,000 is just not getting spent?
Correct.
It's just in the capital reserve?
Yep, it can always be appropriated another day, but yes, it's in the reserve. That's correct.
And so of all that work, we're rolling over the front doors for another year?
No, we will be doing that, for the current budget we're going to be in fiscal year 26, 27, the one that starts in June. We are gonna be doing the front of the building. It's where the door is and the steel windows and stuff that are in front of there, that they're all rotted. They have to be replaced regardless of what's going on. They're completely deteriorated.
For the 20,000? Front doors?
Correct.
And, well, okay.
Yeah, it needs to happen.
So when we have a new chief, we're gonna figure out what we're doing with the.
We'll evaluate, yeah, what are really the needs? What are we looking at? And reimagine that scope a little bit.
Anything else for the capital plan side?
Not for the police department, no.
Okay,
Pretty
then let's
straightforward.
move to the operating budget, which was page 20, you said? Okay, great.
Back to appendage five.
And you said this didn't change at all from last year? Kind of in a
Just
holding
personnel,
pattern?
just personnel related costs that go
Yeah.
up every year.
Does anybody have any questions about the operating budget?
Just what we've talked to in the past, that we're still budgeting for full staff, full chief, so that money is still there, even though it's not getting spent.
That is correct.
We still have it in the budget, it's still being
Yep.
carried, even though those are empty positions.
That is correct.
I am clarifying.
Yeah, no, it's a good question, no.
For the listeners at home, you
No,
know?
we haven't removed stuff due to attrition or trying to remove or lessen the department. Everything's funded as if we were operating at our normal capacity.
Because I think the trend is like, well, you've got all this extra money now because you're not paying it out. But it's in the budget, it's still there, and it's waiting to be spent.
Correct.
Does anyone else have any questions regarding the police operating budget? Nope. Okay, let's move on. Let's go back to the capital plan. All right, so something that's not in the capital plan that we're seeing in front of us that I asked Brian about, and I thought I copied everybody in, but I did not. We need a generator for Village Hall that's more robust than what we have today. And it's not going to go in this 26, 27 projects. It's gonna be a placeholder in 27, 28 eventually. And in our discussion, we're gonna look for some ways to possibly defray some of the costs of that. But we do need to get a generator for Village Hall that's, like I said, more robust than what we have today. So that, I'm just letting you know, it's not in what you see in front of you, but it will go in the line items for 27, 28. Fair?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm assuming I'm next.
Yeah, you are. Hi, Jason.
Hello.
I don't think we need to ask you about the printer replacement. Maybe we start
So-
at, go ahead.
Yeah.
Do you have a place you'd like to start?
Well, we can just go through the list that you have in your budget. It's page 66. Right through section 3 tab. Jason can fill in here, but we're going to continue as we discussed at our budget presentation with the door access upgrades and getting some key fobs for some of the locking doors at Village Hall PD and the fire stations to a fob-based system versus a very much key system today, at least for the exteriors. As we talked about, we'll do the police department front doors. You can see the picture there, what we're talking about. It's just met its useful life expectancy for that material. And we'll be using aluminum versus steel moving forward. It's just, it's such a high salt area where we salt near the, sorry, I'll speak into this a little further. It's such a high appropriation of salt we put it there just due to a walking point, and it sits there next to that steel and just corrodes it at a very quick rate. We're looking at doing some HVAC upgrades in the museum, and that'll include centralized air as well as a heating system. So that'd be a nice upgrade to something right now that doesn't have any type of cooling, especially for the summer months. We're working through that. That project may or may not come out of capital should we be successful in DRI, because the museum has some projects already listed in it. And if we can incorporate that into it with that project of elevators and some other space, we'll try to do that with the DRI grant funding. Jason, if you want to talk about your street resurfacing through the mill and fill, we had talked about doing Elm, West, Clinton, Jackson Place. Go ahead.
Sure. So we have in the budget this year to do 4 streets: Elm, Clinton, Jackson Place, and West Street.
West.
Those 4 roads have become due, and they need attention. With the resurfacing project, we'll also go through and update sidewalks where needed. Any associated catch basin, storm sewer work, manholes replacements, so all the steel in the streets, and potentially, any gutter work that we can do.
Jason, sorry, I just thought about it now. Whose jurisdiction is East Church, particularly as you're getting towards Turk Hill?
That's state route, and then I believe it's also, there's county jurisdiction for it as well. There's enormous potholes.
Okay,
through
yeah.
So can we pause for a second? What do you project is the date that, I'll ask the question that's out there that people are asking. what is your projection? It has nothing to do with this budget of when you can start filling in some of the potholes. I personally have driven all around local villages and towns. Everybody has them, and we are not alone in this, but we do have some craters.
We don't possess the equipment to properly repair potholes, so we rent it. The rental will show up Wednesday. It's a skid steer track machine with what's called a cold planer. It's 24 inches wide, and it grinds up the area. And potholes are just like cancer. You know, a funny looking mole. You got to cut the whole thing out and replace it. In the past, our process for that was just to shove asphalt in the hole and roll over it, and tamp it down, and cross our fingers. It's not. That's not a great process, and it's not how things should be fixed. They should be fixed the right way the first time. And you just save so much money in the long run. So the skid steer shows up Wednesday. The plants that make asphalt don't open until April 6th, I think. So our plan is to, where we can, we kind of stratified we did an inventory of all the potholes through the village. And we'll go through and we stratified those, the ones that we could actually go and mill ahead of time because it wouldn't affect the drive or the traffic or wouldn't make it any worse than it already was. So we'll go through and do all those and get them prepped. And we'll have hopefully a stockpile of work to do so when that plant opens. I don't want to be the first one to the plant because they have to work out the bugs in the beginning of the season. So we're planning on beginning that work 2 days after, which is I think April 8th.
Okay,
So milling now, beginning milling Wednesday, Thursday, depending on weather, and then filling the potholes beginning the 8th. I think it's like a Thursday.
As
so
you and I discussed, and we had to wait for the
I
plant to
know,
open and all that.
I know.
right?
I get my share of calls, Brian gets his share, I know you get your share of calls, and
Well, we
for,
want to make it great.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're all pulling the same direction, so,
so they should see it in the beginning of April.
yeah.
As soon as we can get some asphalt from the plants, we have the tools, and as soon as the asphalt's ready, we will start filling and hopefully not have to fill them in another 2 weeks again.
Yeah, we rented the machine, we'll have it for a month. And we'll hopefully get through everything before the end of April. That's our goal this year.
Okay. All right, that was the hard question. Or the more question. Let's go back to so we have the street resurfacing, mill and fill, and that is the same streets that you have under sidewalk replacement, along with sidewalk replacement on East Street, Frank Street, Maple Street. You weren't here the other night, but Hart Street and East Ave. East
I
Ave,
watched from home.
you would have heard
I
me.
saw you all wave to me, thank you.
You
Yeah.
would have heard me say how happy the people on Frank Street are, having walked that neighborhood just recently with friends and neighbors not too long ago. And it is the rolling hills of Frank Street versus, there's a lot of trees that are pushing things way out of place.
Our sidewalk funding is split between two categories. We have grant funding and we have capital funding, where we're paying cash, basically. The reason we have that is only roads that we resurface qualify for the grant funding for reimbursements. So when we do roads that aren't being reimbursed through one of the Consolidated Highway Improvement Program grants, we have to pay for it with cash. And that neighborhood in the northeast quadrant is in dire need of work. So that's what we're doing.
My neighbors will be excited.
think so. I think so. It's gonna be great.
All right, so sidewalk replacement, street resurfacing, we talked about oil and stone the other night, which was the upper Winding Brook neighborhood.
The oil and stone project that we began, this will be our third year. The first year we did it as a trial, and we kind of get our legs out, or legs underneath us, and figure out how that process goes. It was $30,000 in the budget for that work. As we got through that, you know, we really learned, because it was the first time any of the team had done any of that work. You know, we learned a lot of lessons, and we doubled it the following year, and that went to 60,000, and then this year, we're increasing it again to 90 in order to complete the work that we started the year before in the Winding Brook neighborhood. So the remainder of that section of the village will be completed with chip sealing.
And then drainage gutters. Go ahead.
Just a question that came to my head. We've been talking about that Winding Brook area with storm sewers and all of that, because that's gonna be a big capital improvement project to be able to fix that whole big raceway that got created because they, you know, paved over the brook of Winding Brook. It's under there still. So the impact, when that work is getting done, this isn't gonna affect the fact that we've resurfaced the roads?
No, so generally, throughout that neighborhood, there's a few outliers. But generally throughout that neighborhood, the concerns were, or the areas that would be overly concerning as far as for having open heart surgery through that neighborhood are the conductors from the catch basin, right, where the stormwater goes, to that main that runs through. Every street has a main under its. Those conductors were the worst culprits, and most of them have been replaced throughout the neighborhood. So there's a couple outliers, but we've worked to replace most of those, replace the catch basins where we can. There's catch basin work that we're gonna do through that neighborhood that'll also pick up some of the conductors that are no longer serviceable. But the storm sewer work is done with lining, so it's non-invasive. They go from manhole to manhole, and they blow, in essence, a sock through that line, and it hardens in place. It's called cast-in-place pipelining. And it creates a new pipe underground without having to dig anything up. It's a great technology to have.
I like the technology, yeah. So I guess I was under the impression we were digging up that whole big part, that big Winding Brook Road, and we're not doing that?
I think that there was conversation at some point between the board members and Brian as to reestablishing a median from the bottom, we'll say, of Winding Brook up to Turk Hill Road. That work isn't represented in this budget, and certainly if it's something that the board desires, then we can try and figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's some of the stuff we're talking about in the front end of the budget, right? I think in some of the narrative there. Was that one of the bond things we were talking about, or no?
Well, the bond that we've been referring to is to actually, it's about $1 million worth of storm sewer lining that has to happen in that neighborhood, and it does need to happen. We don't want to piecemeal it where you're doing something every year. We've got our money out of the galvanized pipe that's in the ground. We need to fix it right before there is a collapse, and you have no other reason but to dig it up, and it's very invasive and ruin streets and people's homes and things of that nature. So we'd like to do it all collectively at once and have it done and get out of that neighborhood, right? Yes, the board has talked about, and the oil and stone is just it's just a wear surface that goes on there. So at some point we want to reestablish that median from Turk Hill to the lower end of Winding Brook. We can do that, but it's a much bigger project. you're digging in, you're putting in granite curb throughout there, establishing trees and all that other type of stuff. And we can do that really at any time there's a project and money, and the board wants to appropriate to do something like that, but it's a significant project. But right now, this plan doesn't have anything like that. If you want to work on a plan to do that and financing and stuff, we can come up with something if that's a priority of the board to present to you.
Just
Yeah,
for
yeah.
clarity,
Yeah, yeah.
we've talked about it on and off for a couple of years and in different places, so.
We'd like to, it's just a money thing right now about where
Right.
we can go about it.
So we're bonding for the $1 million to fix the storm sewers,
It's not in this current budget,
but that's our
But we-
current plan.
but we'd like to do that. That's what's gonna have to happen. Otherwise, we're gonna throw $100,000 or $200,000 at it a year and we'll be here till the cows come home. So I think it needs to happen at some point in the near future. Yeah,
Just getting clarity of the
yep,
plan.
yep, good questions. So it's in the 10-year capital plan, recognized for not the current budget you're working on, but the following year, so the 27-28 fiscal year.
Yep.
I think for perspective, this is a good point we can discuss. Clinton Place is roughly 500 feet long. The cost for resurfacing and replacing manholes and catch basins is roughly going to be $113,000. The chip sealing for Winding Brook, Misty Pine, Red Maple, Silver Birch, Blue Spruce, Butternut Circle, and White Alder is 9,516 feet, and we're predicting that to cost $90,000. So we're doing almost 10,000 feet of road for 90, where when we mill and pave 500 feet of road for about 113.
It's a big savings.
Huge.
Well, every street's gonna require that eventually, but the point of the One Stone is not to take place of a mill and fill, but it's to prolong that longevity, right? At some point, you can no longer continue to do that, and our road requires some work, but this should be part of our maintenance program throughout the village, and I'm glad that the board is doing this. It's a game changer in giving us time in an effort to maintain that infrastructure long term.
Is there anything else of note that y'all wanted to ask about in the capital projects? I'm looking forward to seeing a new street sweeper.
We are too.
It's my,
Yeah.
Mandy coming over there and fixing that thing?
It's a 2009, our existing street sweeper, so it's met its serviceable life, and it's ready for a replacement.
So I'll ask one more time. Does anybody have any further questions about items on the capital plan? I don't see anybody saying yes. Go ahead, Heidi.
My question, I'm just super interested in the conversion of the parking lot in front of Village Hall, in front of PD, into the green space. Because, it's just gonna be adorable, and I'm very interested to see what comes of that.
The plan is rather simple, a concrete walkway, and some
But for the
sod.
green part.
Some
There's
grass.
a walkway.
Some sod. That's great. Yeah,
A table,
certainly, we anticipated,
fire
oh
pit.
boy.
That's why I wanted the fountain. Remember we talked about the fountain, Brian?
Yes, I agree with it. We can do all of that, just appropriate more money.
Okay.
We can do anything you want.
Fountain would be great.
Put a wishing well and collect coins.
Offset the cost. One nickel at a time.
Did you need more?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
So look for that work when Millennium comes back.
Thank you.
So there's some in-house work that we're gonna do as part of that project.
Village Forces are gonna do the removals, and then Millennium is going to complete the project as far as the concrete portion goes. And then village staff, our DPW team, will do the sod and then plantings and things like that. It may be immediately sod and get it reestablished so we can move on to other things. It's gonna really depend on timing.
You mean, I'm gonna have to go out there with the sprinkler all summer long?
There'll be one out there.
It'll be a staff garden. Everyone can take turns watering it.
Sounds like a plan.
It's your
Watering's
15-minute
very
break. Go
expensive.
outside. You need to water the grass.
What was it, $10,000 a month for the Southeast Bank? I almost lost my mind. Watering's very expensive.
Yeah, I was scared
thought
to
we had a
tell you
leak.
about that.
Yeah, you were. I was scared to pay the bill.
Okay, so why don't we flip over to operating expenses? I think everybody's done with the capital plan, and if you can give me a heads up what page we're going to. It's 27 is where it starts?
I have some concerns about the parking lot. Are we, this would be the time now to bring some of those up?
This capital?
Going back to the
The
capital
village-
plan.
The village parking lot conversion to green space. Just sharing a little historical perspective on this. It wasn't included in the streetscape. And then the board, I was led to believe that the transformer that was needed for all the lights that were going in and the upgrades would be huge. In essence, eliminating parking, there might be a spot left. So at that time, the best solution would be make the best of a bad situation if we're just gonna have little bits of, not enough for a parking lot, okay, it could be a pocket park. And again, village board members just voted by email for that. Then when I realized that that isn't the case, that you absolutely can have parking there, that the transformers are a much smaller size, that's when I brought it back to the board for discussion about, I think the best use of that land in service to our residents is to keep it as a parking lot. For many reasons. I think I had 10 different reasons. And then at that time, and we did have lead time to change the plans. We had 4 to 6 weeks before they were digging up the sidewalks and putting in and taking out that, that road access. And we were told, but the curbing's already been ordered. It's like we have, 1.5 miles of curbing. I think, a couple, 25 feet shouldn't have been a deal breaker. But also at that meeting, it was decided, since there was no compromise, we couldn't go back, it had to stay a park. The compromise was going to be that 3 spaces on Main Street were going to be designated to the police department and for handicap. And they were going to be painted green with the words police and handicap.
I don't remember anything of that. I remember that one spot is going to be handicapped,
Well, we can check the tape.
and I don't remember anybody saying anything about them being painted green. And
We'll
then there
check
were
the
2
tape.
other parking spots. I'm just sharing with you. I don't remember us ever discussing anything like painting the street green.
Okay, we'll reference that. That was
Okay.
my understanding of the
Okay.
decision that was made. That was the compromise of not being able to keep it a parking lot, which I feel strongly is the best use of that land for access to the police, as well as our most vulnerable population and public service. So the reality happened, probably a goof up. All that parking had been removed and bike lanes were painted.
Where were bike lanes painted?
No, the bike symbols in the road, which is fine, but the parking had initially been removed altogether. Now the parking signs are back, which is fine, at least now we have some parking. But that wasn't the initial, that wasn't,
I think us members of the board, we're confused what you're talking about. When you say that bike symbols were painted and that the parking was removed, but then the parking's back, and
the
I'm
parking
not
was
sure what.
never striped. Initially, it was never striped. Initially, the painting for the bike symbols went in before. And then the parking came in after it was brought up, or so it seemed.
I'm confused. I really am not sure what you're talking about. Were all the parking spots painted on Main Street yet?
I think that we have some painting that still needs to get done. We discussed it. I had a gear up meeting with our engineer and Millennium, our contractor, and there were several point items, and one of the conversations we had, it had to do with, I think there's some additional striping that still needs to get done or refreshed, so I don't know exactly where the striping is, that I can't regurgitate that without, I didn't bring those notes.
Sure.
But if there's something missing, then we'll fix it.
Yes, and Brian said the checklist hasn't, because it went so late in the fall. There are things on the Street Ticket project that need
Yeah.
to be addressed.
There most
Yeah.
certainly is. There's
Yeah.
quite a bit of work.
So,
Yeah, so, and we're, and just for the board's knowledge, the meeting I had with Millennium and our engineer, I want to say it was early last week, maybe Monday, we went through and discussed those touch point items that need to get resolved. There was quite a few items that weather prohibited us from continuing, notably any striping or painting because of the temperatures, as well as, or any striping and painting that hadn't gotten completed, as well as the enhancing sealer on the stamped concrete. That can't be applied under 50 degrees. So that has to go in, and there's a few other items. So our goal is to have that completed, and we're just drafted the continuing contract for the work to be completed, and we put a completion date. I believe it was May 22nd. The drive was to have everything done and have our face on for Canal Days.
Okay, so,
I'm not done.
well, I'm addressing your striping question. Jason just covered it.
Yep.
I'm not sure that anybody said anything about painting anything green. We can go back and look at
Yep.
the meeting notes. What else from that you just put out there is still needs to be addressed before you go on to something new? You don't like the parking lot is being converted to grass.
And what I would ask this board to consider, yes, that's a decision that leadership can make. But should they? Not all decisions you have to have public engagement with. Lots of decisions you don't, that the leadership can just make those decisions. However, I really feel strongly that the decision to remove this access and that parking should be a decision that the public can weigh in on. It's incredibly impactful to public safety, to access, and this decision affects every person in the village.
I'm
And I
gonna
think
pause
in
you.
an
I'll let
impactful
Heidi go in
way.
just a second. The public safety of having cars turning around in that parking lot. So right now, there are no bollards up around that, correct?
I think we got a couple ballards up in front.
But
I think it's just the sidewalk.
I don't think there's bollards on this side in what was the parking lot. You can go look out that window right there, my front window. Once, if you introduce cars into that small of a parking lot, because you would need to have safety protections around that transformer. If someone hits that transformer, it's got, doesn't it have toxic? It's like hitting a transformer in front of the school when somebody did that. I think that you're looking at creating a larger public safety problem by having cars park in there and not having enough room to turn around. And that's not something that the public can make a decision about. That's based on Fairport Electric's comments on it, engineering decisions around what safe turning radiuses are for vehicles. That's not something that you can just say, Julie, how do you feel about that? Well, I think that we should be able to squeeze my Mini in there because I want to park in there. Well, that's great, but if you're now putting infrastructure of the nature of an electrical transformer, you're introducing cars close by to that, you're looking at public safety issues for the transformer, for whoever's in that vehicle, and for the people who have to work on it.
That could be part of the discussion.
I
That
don't
could
think
be-
that, I don't think that's worthy of a public discussion when we discussed it last year for multiple weeks, and the decision was made. We discussed it in meetings when we were talking about the plan, and it was decided that we would go forward with making that green space.
Now, that's something I don't remember. I was a vote in an email.
I'm gonna have to,
However-
there was a
I'm going to
discussion.
go ahead and let Adam and Heidi talk.
Yeah. My question is, how do you think that changing that from 3 parking spots to a green space affects public safety in such a huge manner? I know we had a parking study done, and we have more than sufficient parking, public parking, especially in this area of town. But this is something that I know we discussed at length in meetings about how wonderful it would be to turn it into a green space, considering that the transformer is going to need to be put there, and it is impeding, having the parking lot there and having the curb cut and all of those things impedes pedestrian traffic, and it affects pedestrian safety walking up and down the sidewalks. And we want a walkable village, and I thought that was one of the goals of changing that, is we could improve public safety by turning it from a parking lot to a green space. So there
Adam,
aren't
did you
cars
have something else that you wanted to add as well?
Just that I know we discussed this in a meeting. We
The
had,
park part, yes, I do recall that.
I'm sorry?
The public park part, yes.
Yeah. So we did have a discussion on that. We made a decision. It seems like just going in circles to try to relitigate things that a decision was made on. Just kind of where I said, it's hard to see how that moves things forward.
This decision, how has it been communicated with the residents so far? and the
We
impact
talked
to
about
them?
it in meetings.
Because I still have people that think, are like, when did that happen? What I'm saying is that I see not a reason to rip this up right now, next month. I think there's still some, I would like to get some better communication out, and I'd like to let the residents weigh in on that with all the information.
The time to weigh in on that was
Last
last
year.
year, when we were making the decisions, when public notices are put out for all of the meetings, and when the agendas are published about what it is that we're going to talk about. That is the time to have those discussions and for the public to bring themselves in and ask the board whether they come into a meeting or if they send an email or whatever it is. That was the time, and we've, like Adam said, that was something we had discussed at length and something we had made a decision on. And I don't know what the purpose is of rehashing the discussion and trying to change something that we've already decided on.
I don't see the purpose of rediscussing it either. I talked about it in public meetings. I talked about it in front of merchants when we talked about the Main Street plan. I talked about it at a variety of meetings. I really don't think that we're moving forward with this budget by rehashing that.
Can I ask a question? Since I wasn't here for those discussions, and I don't want to belabor points that have already been made, but Tracy, other than inviting people to come to meetings and send emails and stuff, do you anticipate if you were to open that up to the public, what would the mode be? Would it be that you would gather information from the public? Would it be just the same thing, like, we're going to discuss this at this meeting?
I was thinking a survey
Okay,
with information.
okay.
It's not like I just feel very strongly that the residents need to have time to weigh in on this. And yeah, we may have talked about it, but a, $5 million streetscape project, that little portion of it may not have been on anybody's radar at the time. And now it is a much bigger impact. It's not like it has to be done in April. It could be done in the fall, after we have some input.
Well,
I don't see us spinning our wheels by
The
waiting.
plan for this is in next year's budget. It doesn't start this budget that we're talking about, this part of it,
Oh, I thought Brian said it was going to happen in April. This work. It's happening in April of '27?
We're trying to get some of this work and some of the sidewalk work within this park area, correct? The parking lot? By no later than May 22nd to get it in
the
before
rest of
Canal
this
Day. So
falls
it's all
in the
tidied up and
26,
cleaned and what
27
have you.
budget.
Also, we're trying to tie that work into remaining funds within the streetscape project at 20 cents a dollar. So if we wait and we close that project out, then, which is fine, it's your purview, but you're paying 100% of that true cost, not the local share of that, which would be about 20%.
I don't see a point to waiting. I think that we already had plenty of discussions about this last year, and this rehashing things that were closed out last year, which has happened multiple times, is really wasting the time of our staff that's here, as well as it's not part of this budget.
Okay, advocating for public service and letting the public in a proactive way weigh in or comment on it is not wasting.
That was last year. And there was lots of discussion about it because I sat in the middle with Emily and with you discussing it at multiple length last year. And we are right now wasting time on this budget. And the public had plenty of time to weigh in last year and the year before.
We'll agree to disagree, that's all. I feel strongly about that.
And that's fine. I don't think that you have support. I'll ask, does anybody else support reopening this and talking about it again? Adam, do you support reopening this and talking about it again?
If we start going down this road, it makes it very difficult for anybody who works for the village, our staff included, to make any plans in the future if any decision we made continues to be relitigated. So no.
Heidi, do you support opening this up and talking about it again?
I agree with trustee Minoski, and no, I do not support opening this discussion again.
Sarah, I know you were not here present for this, but do you support opening this up and re-talking about it again?
I think it would be inappropriate for me to make a judgment on that since I wasn't here and you're all agreeing that it was discussed, so.
Okay, I'm going to ask that you move on, Tracy, because I don't think we should spend any more time talking about this tonight.
Okay, we'll move on to something else.
Okay? What else would you like to talk about? You said you had other things on your list.
Oh, that was on the village parking. When we want to talk about the Northeast Canal Bank footpath, is that a Jason project?
Yeah, we just said, does anybody have any more questions about the rest of the capital plans that are in front of you? And you all just said no. So we'll go back to the capital plan. That is part of the DPW work.
So, Brian discussed this during his presentation of the budget initially last week.
Yeah,
The Northeast Canal Bank footpath improvements
we earmarked $175,000 for improvements to that path. There's a seawall that runs along the north side of the canal path between the Lift Bridge and the Parker Street Bridge, or really the outflow. It appears, over time, it's settled, and there needs to be replacement. It's a brick paver path, which is, generally, it's a maintenance-heavy item, where you consider doing some alternate materials to replace that and repair that with. There isn't a plan in place just yet. What we're hoping is that we'll hear the announcement that we are awarded the DRI, and we'll use funding for that. This is earmarked funds in case that doesn't come to fruition, that we're able to get engineering started and hopefully do that work. It's not going to be this summer, but perhaps we'd be able to have that work get started in the spring, of '27, or it continues through if we haven't completed the engineering and a plan for it. But we know it needs to get done, so here it is, and we're just kind of bringing it out to the light of day.
So, so again, I understand the flaw between the seawall and the path. And just clarifying, this 175,000 would be just where the pavers are, and we would figure out engineering is the best way to do that? I'm looking at the whole big scope, and that's very still unclear to me.
Well, you would define the scope, the board.
Because there's 15 feet that the Canal Corp owns.
There's,
It's the Canal Corp owns all of that. But we're charged with the maintenance, repair, and continual upkeep. Improvements are on our dime.
So, because I did go measure, the current path is 15 feet. And that would be the canal right away, or the blue line is about that?
I don't know if
think
the
it's
blue line
further.
directly follows the path.
So the
highly
blue
doubt
line
it doesn't.
meanders throughout New York State as the canal goes. And it's not like a highway boundary where it's a set 50 foot or something like that. And I don't know the answer as to why it does that. But some places it's the canal plus 20 feet. In some places it's far, far wider. So that's not representative. The materials in the footpath that you see out there isn't representative of where that demarcation of ownership is. It's representative of whoever did the design in the first place said, hey, look, this is how wide of a footpath we want to have.
So you answered one of my questions, that we have to maintain it whether whoever owns it, right? So the Canal Corp wouldn't have to have approval of what we want to do, or you don't have to run things by them, or they don't have standards.
They have all of that, and we will need a canal permit to do it, and we will need their approval.
A design approval, okay.
Yep.
Now, what you said last, when you originally explained this, from where the path is to the parking lot is an additional 15 feet. Is this project going to incorporate that area too? Because right now, there's grass and mature trees.
It could be whatever we want it to be. We'll investigate that further, where that blue line is and where the private property is. I mean, just because where the parking lot goes doesn't mean that's the boundary of that part. That property may go further south, and that's just where the parking lot ends. So we'll determine that as we kind of get closer to figuring out what that scope's going to look like right there.
So this is, a lot of this money is just coming up with ideas, engineering, how do we fix the,
No, it's meant to do the work, to do a good
but
portion
we
of the
don't know
work.
what it's going to look like yet.
It hasn't been fully determined yet.
And it may or may not include the green space. We haven't
It
decided.
may or may not, correct. That's
When-
correct.
I'm sure the board will look at the plans
Yeah,
before
I mean-
anything is finalized.
Yeah,
You're not just gonna see a concrete truck sitting out there and pouring concrete the next day.
Asking for clarity, hence I have the questions. How
Yeah.
big is it? Is the green space going? Are the trees getting cut? What are we doing?
So as we progress with this, I mean, and like I said, it's not necessarily something that we're gonna start on, even the engineering side of it immediately, but if there's a desire by any of the board members to see features, enhancements, any specific attributes incorporated in it, I'd love the feedback, because that gives us somewhere to jump, or at least start with initial design, so that when we do bring that plan forward, we've got a head start on incorporating the things that the board is looking for.
In your investigation at all, pavers can be repaired. And as I walked all along there, and this is a 25-year-old path, it's in pretty good shape. The only where you have a consistent flaw is where you leave the canal bib to the existing, because the subsurfaces are different. And that's where you've had sinkage over 20-some years, of about an inch. In the investigation, is there any way that we could get an estimate from like a professional mason and have this, have a few rows of the pavers
Sure.
reset?
Yeah, absolutely. We can certainly get estimates for that. The failures are larger than that. So because we consider doing it piecemeal, sections at a time, using even village staff, which it's tough. I can't do it with the work that we have programmed this year, but if we knew in advance, and it would be a big undertaking. But the flaws are beyond that too. Where the seawall, and it varies, some places it's just an inch, some places it's larger, in some places there's opening gaps. But then also along, over time, we've replaced water lines underneath there, and
That's for some of the flaws.
and you see some of the flaws
Yep.
where water or other infrastructure features were added or repaired, and proper care wasn't taken to ensure soil compaction, and it's hard to compact and bring it right back to where it should have been before. So when you make a repair, and you don't disturb either side, but you disturb the middle. So that's an option if the board wanted to pursue that or investigate. Yeah, sure.
let me check my understanding. My understanding was, or what I thought I understood and heard the other night, is between the amount of work that it took to get that back into a reasonable state and the issues that we're seeing out there, it would probably be a long-term solution to go through and review and see about replacing the whole thing, because by fixing it piecemeal, you're just putting more problems back where they already exist. Am I in the ballpark with that thought?
I agree with that, but ultimately, I'll give you my recommendation, and then whatever you decide collectively is what I will execute.
Well, we'll expect that we get an engineering recommendation
Certainly.
because none of us are engineers.
And that's step one.
Yeah, it's just a line item, we're gonna determine the scope, what it is, we can come up with options, present to you guys about what you'd like to see there. We just know that work needs to be done, it's time to make some of that. There's settling throughout that area where it's ponding and puddling. Jason and I talked about very much, and I was very much in favor initially of looking at just, hey, let's just try to lift those bricks up and kind of keep it where it's at. You're not just bringing it up a couple inches, you'll have to probably feather that back from that seawall area, probably a good 4 feet. You're talking about thousands and thousands of brick that have to be reset and redone. The labor associated with that would be more than the cost just to pour concrete one fell swoop. So that's why we're looking at, hey, that if we do it and do it right, it's all brand new, it's all nice. You can determine what that aesthetic looks like. You can make it look like brick. You can color. You can do whatever it is that you look like, and then determine, you know, what do you want that whole area to be. If the board would like to have it reset in its existing condition, we can come back and tell you, you know, what the cost might be to do that, and if that's your purview, then you can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that you're baking in the fact that if we get the DRI, it's not happening this summer, because there's a whole process that happens to get that approved, and you don't even know what projects are approved by around this time next year. So
Yeah, I mean,
that was one thing I was actually floating through my head, so, you know.
and
good that
it'd be
we got
nice
brought
if,
this up.
if that happens, you can look at it a little more comprehensively, say, you know, whatever we do there matches what we look like on the southeast side to recover those bricks and the retaining wall and that type of thing. Because as we talked about, that's a 7-figure project collectively to do it, so it's expensive. So if we can do some of it at a time or do what we can, then we'll do that. But there's a lot hinging on that DRI and us getting that and seeing what we can do for our public projects.
Yeah, and sorry, real quick, has that timeline also been communicated? Like, I'm just thinking of the Historic Museum, right? I'm sure that they're very excited about the idea of an HVAC system. And it's sort of like the good news, bad news. Good news is we got, you know, the DRI. Bad news is probably not happening until next year. I just want to make sure that they know.
So, I'd say that, that HVAC system is a low impact on the budget in general. I think it's, the quote that I got was $15,000. There's definite, the HVAC system that is in there, I don't have my notes for it, but I think it was 20-something years old. Do you recall what I told you, Brian?
It's in that time frame. It's just that, you know, part of some of the DRI proposals for that building, we're getting in the weeds a little bit, but, you know, they're looking at doing a second floor in the back. They're looking at putting an elevator up the side, like how that HVAC system's going to collectively serve all of that. Is it in the way once we start making those other improvements? We're trying to look at it a little more comprehensively. So it's not the issue of like we're trying to be cheap and not spend the money. It's the issue of really looking at it. If we're going to get that and we're going to do that other work, we don't want to have the work that we're doing now just to check the box be in conflict with what we're going to do in the future. So we're trying to look at it that way. We'll know very, very soon what that looks like. But if it doesn't materialize, then we can move forward. Yep.
Well, this is just a general question, but it seems to fit right here. A lot of this budget and the different items we've talked about in relation to the DRI. So would there be an impact on this budget once we
No.
get the DRI? But our next year's budget is going to start to have incorporation of a lot of projects that aren't here.
That's correct. I think I would assume that the board's priorities are going to change a little bit with the DRI as those start to materialize as far as the projects that you would like to take on as public projects. This budget probably would be impacted by it, and your priorities are probably going to change because you're going to have to require significant consulting and engineering work. That's going to have to be incorporated in this budget in some form or fashion. All that stuff has to be paid for first and gets reimbursed later, and it's long-term, so you will have long-term contracts that will go into future years, encumbrances, all those types of things. So yes, if we get that DRI project, I think we're going to have to sit here and pivot, determine about what we want, what's that scope going to be, but it's going to take some time because you have to first identify what projects will materialize. There's a lot of things that, it sounds great in theory, but may not be in a position where financially or a priority perspective may not materialize, right? And that's going to happen. But I think as that scope tends to, as you know, gets further refined throughout the fiscal year, it's going to impact this budget. We're not going to sit. I mean, we're sitting here today. We're 3 months from the fiscal year ending, plus another 12 months. You're 15 months away. We're going to have to pivot and appropriate money in order to start capitalizing on the DRI should we get it. Right, and that's probably going to be at the expense of certain projects or endeavors that we're doing this year. Just depends on what your priorities are going to be once those projects are identified.
Because I know the village has identified upgrades at Kennelly Park, and they were in the budget three budgets ago, and then rolled into it, and then they're not in this budget. So it's not like we haven't done any of the work on Kennelly Park, but I know it's somehow tied to the DRI, what it's gonna look like.
Are you referencing like the, like kind of the roof and the gazebo? I think that was the only thing. That just hasn't been done yet. But you're right, and it's just due to timing. I mean, they just ran out of time for our forces to do it. But that could come down to, are you gonna do that because the gazebo's staying there? Maybe you guys determine when you re-envision that park, should that be a project that materializes in the future, and you'll determine that. Does the gazebo even stay there, or is it moved? I mean, that's something all of you are gonna have to talk about and see what's the best use of that property, right, of that asset. And you guys will determine that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're waiting for you, Tracy. Do you have more questions?
No, that was just the general, DRI is gonna impact this somehow, and projects aren't included. Thank you for answering that. But no, the footpath, I guess it's kind of like we'll start at step one with engineering and figure out a design, and it's not happening this summer. There's no construction for the residents. There's nothing being dug up, which will be a great relief. Just to live in the
Wow.
village.
I think it depends on whether or not we get the DRI. Because if I understand it correctly, if we don't get the DRI, then we've got a line item for it.
Correct.
So it might, or it might not. We have to see if we get the DRI first.
I
Right.
wouldn't envision that work happening this summer.
Okay.
We've got about as much as we can chew through improvements with the resurfacing, the
Okay.
paving, the sidewalks. We're doing more sidewalks than we've ever done. We've got $560,000 in sidewalk replacements this year, I think. To give you an idea, I think 3 years ago when I started, we were doing $70,000 of sidewalks.
Yeah, we're actually being proactive.
Trying to be. We're trying to make a difference and do what's right, so, you know, we can tout that walkable community and everything else. And it starts with having a smooth surface to walk on, I guess.
Okay, Adam's comment just triggered one. Is the south side of the canal included in the DRI? Because that's the one that's million plus. So I thought when we pivoted, or we get the DRI, we would address that. I didn't realize we're doing them both.
It's included as for some improvements to be made on the southeast side.
Because that's infrastructure, drainage, there's a lot going on that side.
There is a lot. Yeah, the northeast side and the southeast side need some work.
Yeah, the trick there is making sure you're balancing it out, because if you're gonna eat like a couple $1 million for that, then that's a couple $1 million that you're not able to use on other DRI
Oh, I
projects.
understand that, but it's just that that project needs lots. This is
Yeah.
more beautification-ish.
Tracy, do you have more questions about the capital plan?
No, I'm very excited about the 60-inch angle sweeper.
I am too.
And using that in, I don't know if you heard, but the merchants loved that for snow removal and a lot of the days when we had fluffy removal. And for residents that have uneven sidewalks and you can't plow, that's good.
So we're excited, and there's, this, you know, it's something that we discussed with the mechanics a lot. Our fleet team, with, you know, what might be the best tool to use for these sidewalks, and it's challenging. You know, our, just as we said, you know, our public, our residents like to tout this as a walkable community, and as do we, and it's challenging to do with the sidewalk plows, because it leaves that just thin film that, you know, eventually, as soon as someone walks over, it turns to ice. And, you know, we're throwing everything at the wall to provide the best product, see what sticks.
Go to support the sweeper. Thank you, I don't have any more questions.
Okay, so where are we moving to in the back of the book? What page?
Appendage 5.
Okay, I see it, halfway down.
Page 27 of
Okay.
43.
Does anybody have any questions about page 27? Page 28 is the same thing.
When we have the overtime on there, is that usually for just like festivals and stuff?
Which, I'm sorry,
With
which,
snow removal.
Well, that one is a different, that one's a different item if I know I saw it.
that's,
Yes,
that-
no, we're
that's
all-
general overtime for the village, whether it's for call-in. So the DPW always has a staff member every week of the year
Okay.
on call. So we get called in for various things. Someone's sewer backs up, or someone hit a
Or-
deer on Church Street, or
Where a pump stops working.
or pump stops working, or the pipe that carries the material that gets pumped stops working, right? So, that line item takes care of those emergency on-call issues. Not coded somewhere else.
All the above.
Right.
Kinda, yeah. And the snow removal personal overtime is Brian's favorite line item. Like I said, that's on 30 there. It's because it only snows on the weekends and after 6 o'clock.
It does. I was looking at the totals today, and 113.7 inches thus far in this area, so it's just a lot of times, and you're right, it carries
Thus
into a
far,
lot
do
of
not
nighttime
jinx us, Brian.
and a lot of weekends, and it just does.
Real quick, with the, I think I saw something, was it $3,000 for trees? Where did I feel like it's in here somewhere? There we go, yeah, yeah. Do you know rough number what that is?
30-ish.
Great.
So that's estimating how many you're gonna plant 30 trees next year?
So that's what we try to. Every year, we try to plant around 30 new trees.
Okay,
That's what we seem to, and we've changed the operation on how trees are planted a little bit too. We were having trouble with survival rate, so the tree board and I worked together to come up with some planting standards. All the trees are bare root, and they're dipped in something called a hydrogel to keep them alive until we get to plant them. But now we dig the holes with a backhoe. We put fresh topsoil. They get staked, they get mulched, and they get gator bagged. And it's that process. And I think Trustee Benoski can attest to it, as we talk about it. Trustee Benoski comes to the tree board meetings with us. The tree board's very happy with the results that we've had in the last 2 years, 3 years, with the survival rate of the plantings. So it's been a success.
And the Arbor Day celebration is always, especially last year was fun. Last year was a fun one.
So we'll look for something similar to that. I would certainly invite all the members of the board. We're trying to partner with the school again, and the goal is to just basically plant along that frontage of on Hulbert. So we reach out to the garden club.
I think the dates that possible dates are the 21st and the 23rd.
I believe you're right. I believe you're right.
April.
Arbor Day, I think, is on the 25th.
Earth Day is the 22nd, which is, so it's like Tuesday and Thursday. Earth Day's Wednesday. And
And then
Yeah.
I think actually,
we're gonna call all
Megan's gonna
that
add the
out.
proclamation to the.
We're gonna
next
call all
meeting.
that out in April.
Yes,
At that
please.
April meeting.
Thank you.
Any other questions for DPW operations?
I just had a question looking at the different line items for celebrations, personal services for overtime. Are these estimated amounts since it's not something that we charge back to any entity? Or it's on 33 of 43 at the bottom.
So that is roughly representative of what we charge back, the amount of time that the DPW spends, both in straight time and overtime, to support these festivals is much more.
Thank you.
It's, I'm sorry, the time to support the festivals?
The
is more?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have some brief numbers, I guess. And I'm sorry, I didn't,
So these numbers are charged back, but you've got real numbers, right?
no, these aren't charged back. Some, we get some charged back, but those
Okay.
are, that's funded by the village. So we don't, in there, straight time isn't taken out. It's just overtime services. Like, for instance, let's see. Canal Days last year, the DPW had 52 hours of overtime in support of Canal Days between prep leading up to it, and then the final day, our whole team comes in after the Canal Day is closed, and we kind of try to get things back into shape. So it's heavy. The bonus I say about Canal Days is it really helps us. It puts a deadline on us getting ready for the summer, you know. So we know we have to be looking good for Canal Days. So we've got all hands on deck trying to get us there and get us prepped for the season.
And then how much overtime for like the parade?
July 4th is 6 hours. Music Fest last year was none. Oktoberfest doesn't look like we had any overtime. Memorial Day Parade, we had 6 hours.
So you have some time put in there that's overtime that we, out of the village budget, gets paid for.
Correct.
But there's more than
There
that.
is.
Okay. Heidi, do you have any other questions?
How much do you know, I'm asking you to do math at like,
Oh, boy.
I know, like 7:40. Like, if you could ballpark, how much is 52 hours of overtime? What is the total for that?
I'm going to let Megan answer that.
There's
guess.
different
So time and a half
categories.
average
Is it
salary
different?
times
You
52.
don't have to,
Yes.
you can
And then
email me the answer.
I
So using Brian's round number,
You
it's
can pick a round.
like $5,200 for 52. You said about $100 an hour. When you put in fringe, the rate and everything else. It's about 5,200.
Thank you for doing the quick math.
Just confirming with Potter Playground, I see no on the expenses on that, but that's because that's maintained by Parrington, yes? Recreation and Parks?
Yeah, I'm sorry, what page were you on?
32. Just wanted to make sure.
Correct,
That was my
correct.
understanding, but I wanted to, okay.
Parrington Parks Department maintains the Potter Park.
Yeah, that's a line item we used to carry when we owned also the house that was there and did some of the other stuff as well. So where that's just kind of just showing you the historical data, but you see there's nothing that's moved forward in the last 2 or 3 years.
Because they do the maintenance over there.
Correct.
Anything else?
And, sorry, one last one. I wanted to make sure, again, my memory is correct, if we use anything for removal of pests or encourage growth, that's on we're using organic or sustainable products. I don't know if I'm using the right term for this.
So the weed abatement.
Thank you.
We've used TLC Organics, which
Right.
is there's a material that they spray on that is safe, naturally derived.
It's clove oil and vinegar or something like that mixture. But is the board's position to not use any other product but something like that? The reason I ask is we spend about $15,000 or more on that a year. It doesn't really keep up with what's needed and what's going on, and it's a constant reapplication every 4 to 6 weeks, and that's fine. But we're just letting you know. I mean, it's an expensive product with varied results.
I was gonna say, if we were done with sort of like a control,
Well, if you use a more robust product, I think you'd get a lot better product, but it's not going to be an organic product.
right? Well, actually, I was gonna say the organic versus nothing.
You're going to weeds. You're going to weeds all over the
I just had
village.
to go, wait a minute.
The canal corridor, the sidewalks, the curb lines. I mean,
Okay.
it'll be problematic. I can assure you.
Yeah, we have to go back to.
It would be it would be really rough.
No, okay.
We're gonna need a lot
No.
of weed.
I would say do something
Okay, fair
versus
enough.
nothing.
I mean, from where I stand, I like using the organic products where we
Yep.
can. I understand it's an expense. But, I think about all the stuff that can go into the stormwater and everything else
Yeah.
that runs into it, so.
Sure. Okay.
I tend to agree with Adam.
Same.
Sorry. Sorry. Not sorry. Anything else? Okay, then I think we can call that done.
Okay.
I put that anything else out there a couple times. Jason, thank you so much for coming and
You're welcome.
facing the questions.
It's easy when you know it. And we spend a lot of time on this budget, like we do every year. It's important to us. So,
Your team is very important to us.
thank you. They're fantastic.
They are.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a
Thanks,
great night, Jason. So, Brian, what do you have on the agenda besides a public hearing for Wednesday?
I believe we have Fairport Electric's going to come in and discuss the electric budget at a high level, so they'll be here for that and ready to go. What's that? Oh, planning and zoning and stuff, but there's really nothing there. It's personnel and any contractual costs associated with operating that. It's the same every year. There's nothing changing there. So we don't have a whole lot to do, but it gives you more time to keep reviewing the budget. Come in here and ask some questions, things that you want to talk about, or whatever the priorities the board may have that we can adjust to. We're willing to do that.
So, from a board perspective, if you come across something that didn't get covered tonight, why don't you forward it to Brian and copy the rest of the board in so that we know that you're asking that question? Yes, Tracy, what do you have?
Might be answered Wednesday, but I I know it was a concern to the residents as well as the board to be able to have the IT money to restore the recording of all of our public meetings and post them the next day.
I
You know,
think
the
we're going to talk
FMC
about that
and
on
all
Wednesday.
Okay. I said it might be a Wednesday IT.
It
Well,
is.
Let's make sure it's in there.
It is, and it is. They're going to meet in a different room. So I think they're in one of the conference rooms. And anybody from the public who wants to join them can go join them over there. Yeah, full house. Anything else? I think I can ask for a motion to adjourn
So moved.
by trustee Woika. Second. By trustee Nazarian. All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? That is it for this evening. Have a great night. And it's 7:45, Megan. Just in case you hadn't gotten it.
Thanks for staying for the whole thing, Mike.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.